America, what once started as 13 separate colonies, has become one of the world's strongest forces. After declaring independence from Britain in 1776, this new country would be named the United States, and it would set its sights on westward expansion. Through the Louisiana Purchase, the United States almost doubled in size, and through other methods over time, the country would be made from a total of 50 states. Even though it's one of the youngest countries, the United States has become a powerhouse in the world's economy. However, there was another side to the story. When everyone got to this land originally and went to claim the land, they discovered they weren't alone. Natives, people who had been here before everyone else, had already made this place their homeland, and they weren't just going to give it up. So everyone took the land by force, placing the natives into slavery or into prison-like areas that would become the reservations. For centuries, natives would be treated as nothing, even though they had been here originally. They wouldn't even be granted citizenship until 1924, and it would take another 39 years for them to be granted most of the benefits included in the Bill of Rights. Even to this day, natives still face some hardships such as racism, which can massively impact their lives. There are many natives, however, that even through the world's cruel treatment, they have been able to find who they truly are and express it. And these natives have not just found themselves, but have helped many others find themselves in their own journeys.
My name is Vincent Romero, Vincent Romero. My mom is Navajo from her mom's side, and Laguna Pueblo from her dad's side. And my father is he's Greek and Spanish, and I'm not sure, but I think there's some Navajo in there. Just can't prove it. As a kid, we would spend a lot of time in Laguna, summers out in Gallup with my grandmother, and so I got a really good look as a kid at what Native culture on reservation is like. I was talking with my with one of my cousins one time, an older cousin, and she told me, she said, when you pass away, you'll come, your spirit will come back here because your umbilical cord is buried here. And I wanted to ask her, is that literal? It turns out it is. And but I love the area. I love the ground. I love the way it smells. I love the people. That's me. That's my heart, my soul. It's where I'm from. That's where I'm going to go. Some periods of time where my parents tried to be as generic as they could be. And through my younger years, it was really, I call it hiding. They hid their ethnicity as best they could, so as to just blend in and be Americanized, I guess you could call it. Is a strange mixture between living an assimilated life, growing up with parents who wanted us to be assimilated and not singled out or picked on or anything like that, or discriminated against. And they had to balance that with keeping a cultural connection, the language, with the dances, with the people, everything, and the ties that are the strongest, of course, are with the family members, the people who lived on the reservation and us living in the city. That's what kept the connection, and kept everything from being completely separated. High school was a huge transitional kind of event. I unfortunately I got mixed up into the drug scene, and so I smoked a lot of pot. I was considered a head. We called ourselves heads. So we had this little saying: never straight, always ahead. And so I'd walk around selling joints here and there, and I actually dropped out. I dropped out of high school sophomore year. Ended up in California. I wanted to be a caricature at Disneyland in Anaheim. I ran out of food and shelters, and I still had my backpack. It was completely empty, but I still had it on, and it was living on the street in LA, and um, just looking for the next high, basically. And this one guy, he had some heroin, and so he showed me what to do, and I did it. Put the needle in my foot and went on a little trip. And things got really blurry from that point. Uh, but that was a few days later is when the guy actually found me. I was just laying on the side of the road. A few other people sitting on the curbs. I was the one laying in the gutter. And I just remember this big guy walking up, just screaming at me, "Are you Vincent? Are you Vincent?" He had a photograph and he was looking at me. And he just grabbed me and picked me up. Took me down to Orange County Hospital. A couple days later, I was looking around like, whoa, where am I? That kind of thing. I wanted to get back into school, but I couldn't. I couldn't finish the year because I had been gone so long. So I started working, and I had a pretty good job. I was making like $12 an hour in the 70s, so I just had a pile of cash in my pocket for a few months there. And I didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to keep working. And my dad was like, "No way, you're going back to school. Give me your money." He put it in a savings account for me and that kind of thing, So I was coming out of this fog for that short period of time, so to speak. And I ended up going to summer school and a couple of extra classes. We call it 0 hour. You get to school at 5 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing. And I ended up playing baseball, got on the varsity team, and I graduated on time. So I hit a bump in the road, but I managed to overcome a little bit.
So you go through high school, you get back on the right track, graduate, and then what happens directly after high school?
The Navy. Yeah. Well, in high school, I got involved with ROTC, and so I was in our early entry program. And so right out of high school, I went right into the Navy. Well, I didn't want to go to college, and I wanted to get out of town. And I don't know, for some reason it appealed to me. The organization of it, the discipline, So I might have been on a pendulum, because I went from a couple of years earlier being extremely disorganized to now being, very, very organized, kind of a situation. So it really appealed to me in the structure and everything. And I think what I liked the most was the fact that I was in charge of as much as I could be in charge of. I wanted to be in charge of this. I volunteered for that. I went for as much as I could get. Just the biggest variety of stuff that I could find. And most guys come out of boot camp, E1 boot camp, seaman recruit. I came out of boot camp as a E3, and because of ROTC, and that helped so much. And then I came out of A school. I was a third class petty officer, so it was pretty cool. I had it going on. I had some momentum and got to travel the world. It was nice. Well, in boot camp, I was in a drum bugle corps, and I got for a little while. We had a drum major that something happened. I can't remember exactly what, family issue or something. He had to leave, and so I took over as a drum major. So I was right underneath the company commander, the recruit company commander, and I really enjoyed, having that having that authority, having that responsibility, that kind of thing. So I scored pretty good enough to do whatever I wanted, so I thought, well, I want to sit in an office. I was after the leisure life, kind of thing. So I became a pay clerk, a dispersing clerk, and went to school for that, and then went right into active reserve. Started off as a reservist and went up to Whidbey Island, Washington State. This is the first duty station, and there was a pay clerk who wanted to. He was on sea duty, and he was with one of the squadrons, and he wanted to stay. He had a family there, a young family just starting off, and he wanted to be on shore duty. I was on shore duty. I went right to shore duty, and so we switched. He was like just about almost a year ahead of me as far as time and service, and so our command said, yeah, you guys have comparable training, comparable time and service. So, go ahead. It's only a 9-month cruise, only 9 months. So I did my first Westpac almost right away, and we did a Westpac, and it was great. Went right across the equator, Australia, East Coast and West Coast, and Philippines, all kinds of different countries, and then. I came back, and I swapped with another guy from a different squadron, right back out to sea. In my boot camp company, there weren't any other Native people that I know of. In A school, we went to Meridian, Mississippi, and there were a few other Native people there. They were in different rates. One was a personnelman, one was a yeoman. I was a pay clerk. We got together a few times and had some beers and talked about different stuff. They were East Coast natives, so I was as different to them as they were to me, But we were both in the service. We were all in the service, so that was that commonality that we had. It's cool. It really is cool. Like I mentioned earlier, talking to people about my specific culture has always been something I've enjoyed. To people from other countries, I find the same amazement and the same conversation to someone from Africa as someone from Oneida. Because our native cultures are that different, and so we have these conversations about. What it means to be, different from each other, as well as similar conversation of being a native in the United States. So the hassles that I had and the stuff growing up, they went through a lot of the same issues. Had to address the same things. Living in both worlds, kind of thing. So we have that in common, and that's cool. It is, and I've learned so much about different Native cultures, different words to different foods. So for me, it's like being in going around the world again. It's pretty cool. I'd go home on leave and right back to the res. Spend a lot of time, as much time as I could out there, and just I would try and time it to when we had. We call them feast days, when we have we call them doings, when we have our doings. And so I try and go back for all the dances, time in the kiva, things like that. And but what kept me connected while I was away was all that time that we spent with family and friends, just talking about who we were, talking about being Native, talking about it wasn't like being in a class. We just were. We were eating the food. We doing the dances, doing the workout in the res. We call it ditch work because the weeds grow into the ditches a lot. So once a week we'd be out there, clearing out the water channels for the farmers and stuff. That growing up that way kept me grounded in culture. In New Mexico, like I mentioned, being native through that period of time was a negative thing. Now it's everyone for themselves, and run into people who are biased and bigoted. But for the most part, I'd say that the ability and the freedom to express yourself is more open, more available, I think. Most people in other countries at that period of time, I found that they knew what they knew of Native Americans was movie, Hollywood, television, stuff like that, and so they had no idea what was going on. But historically, what I did find was that historically, their knowledge, if they wanted to do research on Native Americans, they'd go to what books were available, and those books were Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, that kind of thing. So they were learning about us what American curriculum was teaching us as well. And as far as getting down to the real Native history, the real Native culture, the real stuff, it became conversations, and that was one of the points that I would always try and make in my conversations with people from different countries, or talk about. I would say what you see in the movies and everything, that's completely different. That's not the real thing, and so that was again a point of being amazed. Really, it's not like you guys don't live in teepees? No, there's thousands of different tribes. We all speak different languages. They were like, wow. But it wasn't all structure and work and stuff like that. I mean, we partied a lot, and I drank a lot, to the point of it becoming a problem. And of course, later on after I got out, that part of the party didn't end, and so I had to come to grips with alcoholism and that abuse. The specific classification for me would be functioning alcoholic, because I didn't go into work falling down drunk or stuff like that, but I was drunk, kind of a thing, drink at lunch, drink after work, drink on the way into work, that kind of thing. I was talking to people about what a problem was, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, that's me. I got a problem. I'll drink to that, that kind of attitude. Yeah. Just real ignorant and stuff. PI, Philippine Islands, Subic Bay, Longapo City. That's been a pirate's port for thousands of years, hundreds of years, and we fell victim to some pirates. We were buying drugs, and the guy pulled out a pistol and shot him in the head. I got to go to Puerto Rico, escort him home. But I'd have to say that was a low point. Going into the service, I think, as for its many bumps and everything, it had such a profound effect on me. It gave me structure, it gave me discipline, all that other stuff. I was able, even though I was drinking, I was able to think clearer about what to do. And so it wasn't just like pinballing back and forth. I was able to take some of that discipline and make a choice, an informed choice about getting out of the service and trying something different in life. But I attribute that to the service. It was odd. Once I got out, I went caveman kind of thing, just let my hair grow. And I was in Hawaii too, so I did a lot of surfing. I was chasing this gal, and we got married. She was still in the service, and we stayed in Hawaii for a little bit longer. She was finishing up her sea duty, and we got orders to Glenview Naval Air Station, just north of Chicago here. And we're looking for something to do in town. So we drove in Chicago, and the reader was a big thing at the time, and there wasn't all the information on cell phones like we have now. So we picked up a reader, and I said, "Hey, there's a powwow down at Navy Pier." So we went down there. We went down there, and I was just like, "Yeah, this is it, man." I was telling my wife about all the Native stuff. I got to meet a few people who I'm still friends with today. Introduced myself, who I was from, and where I was from, and all this other stuff. I just got to meet all these Native people being natives. Right downtown Chicago, Navy Pier, in the ballroom. And I fell in love with that, and everyone was saying, "Yeah, you got to come to the Indian Center." The Indian Center, oh, cool. So I started going to the Indian Center down on Wilson Street in the uptown area, and I just started spending more time there. Getting more involved. Started tutoring, things like that, and that was one of our points of contention. Was I'm always in the city, kind of a thing, and so we ended up we parted friends, and I moved into the city, and I've been involved with the Indian Center ever since. Started going to school at there was a Native college here, so I started going to school there. Met a whole bunch of people, got in with a roommate. I met Pam. We worked together for a while. My dad passed away during that time, and I went back to Albuquerque to help out with that. And then I came back to Chicago. I liked the area. I liked the variety. I think I like the anonymity of being in such a large crowd of people, kind of a thing.
When you came out, you said you were still, heavy into alcohol. When did that control start? When did that end up getting better?
Through the second divorce, which was here in Glenview Naval Air Station, it was a huge part of it. It was just the drinking got out of hand, and it became more and more of an issue. It was blaring in my face, and so I decided just to stop. So I stopped for a while, and I met Pam, and I was fortunate that I didn't go through like heavy withdrawals or anything like that. I was still, periodic drinking, here and there. And then when I met Pam, we would drink on the weekends, and I noticed that, the 6-pack of beer for the weekend, the barbecues during the summer and stuff, became a case of beer, for just for the week, had dinner and stuff like that, and she was drinking as well, and we both started a conversation about natives and substance abuse, and we started to see from these conversations how many of our family members died from alcoholism, from the disease-related, related diseases, things like that. She decided first. She said, out of solidarity to my family and Native people and stuff like that, I'm going to stop drinking. And I thought, what a great idea. I'll drink to that. I still had that attitude. And so I'd have a beer, on the weekends and stuff like that. And then I started to see that it was becoming more frequent. And I really didn't want that. I really didn't want that. But at the same time, I was starting to realize I have a problem. I can't just stop. And when I stopped earlier, I really didn't stop. I cut back a lot. Went from 99% down to 10%. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is great, getting healthier, losing a few pounds. So it's working. It's really good. Drink to that. But it was that attitude that had to change. And so when she stopped, I wanted to. And I realized, I got a problem here. I can't stop. So we together, we did it. Going on, oh my gosh, over 15 years now, sobriety.
Congrats.
Yeah. So, thanks to her influence, her support, I mean, she stopped on her own, even while I was still drinking, she gave me that space for realization, self-awareness and stuff. That's cool. In 2015, for a year and a half, I was interim director. So it's a feather in my cap. I'm really proud of. The building that the Indian Center was in at the time was just this huge Masonic temple. And it was crumbling. The electric was failing. Plumbing was going. The boilers were out of commission for years and years. No heat. We had we'd go into the gymnasium, and we had this giant portable heater blowing hot air in for everybody, kind of thing. It was dilapidated. It was really, really bad. While I was there during my tenure, we moved the Indian Center. We sold that building. We bought a new place. It's doing really good. We changed our programming. We were heavy on the social services side, food pantry, clothing, things like that. And when we moved, we went back to being a community center, kids programming, with archery classes, a lot of beadwork classes. We do men's talking circles, things like that. So we were able to transition not only physically from one part of the city to another part of the city, but we changed. We evolved as an organization, and I was part of that transition. It's really, really nice. Somebody once told me, they said, "Oh man, you guys must like to go to war." No. We just the opposite. We love peace, but we love organization. So what I found in my own culture and in studying a lot of the other cultures and conversations and talking to people and stuff is that we have this philosophy that being organized is a huge amount of freedom. If you're organized, you're free to do a lot of other things. You're free to express yourself this particular way. There's an enormous amount of freedom in being structured, and I've found that I would say all the native cultures have that as one of their philosophical foundations, is that through organization is freedom. Being organized, being in order, particular order of things, having that structure allows for freedom.
My name is Ethan Wessling, and I had the pleasure of creating Vincent's documentary. For me personally, I feel very connected to him and his story because I understand how hard addiction can be, not on just oneself, but also the family. That's why it makes me not just happy, but proud to see how far he's gotten himself. But it makes me even prouder to see what he's done for his fellow peers, to not just think for himself, but to think about others and what he can do for them. And for that, I'd like to say thank you